And so there were a couple questions about how Austin Hooper will get involved in this offense moving forward. So let's start there, Mary Kay. Are you worried about Austin Hooper right now, or is this something that's just going to develop over time?
Well, I think it will develop over time, but I think the thing to note when we're watching this new offense come together is that they've got a lot of mouths to feed. There's so many weapons on this offense that the numbers that we've seen before for some of these offensive stars, where they end up going to their Pro Bowls with, 75 catches, 100 catches, and all these touchdowns and everything, that just might be a little bit hard to come by because obviously you've got Odell, you've got Jarvis. I mean, not every week everyone's going to get 9 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's just going to be impossible. This past week, Austin Hooper, for the second straight week, only had 2 receptions. Jarvis, I think, had like 3. It's going to be difficult to spread the ball around and make everybody happy every week.
So I don't want to discourage people from asking questions, because isn't it wonderful to be able to interact with our tech subscribers this way? But I do think at some point, to Mary Kay's point, I think all of us, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody, but all of us at some point just have to get that's not the point. To Mary Kay said, and I've joked about it for 2 years, too many good players. This is what happens when you have a lot of options. And so I don't know, do you want to throw less to Odell? Do you want to run Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt less? Do you want Jarvis less involved? This is what the deal is. And so you look, last year in 13 games in Atlanta, Austin Hooper had 4 targets once. Every other game he had more than 4 targets. So far with the Browns, he had 2 targets in week 1 and 4 targets in week 2. So he is being used far less than he was in Atlanta. But did they win? Did they win? Did they score 35 points against the Bengals? Did the offense look better? Yeah. So I don't know. I think it is going to be like this. Certainly we all expect the tight ends will be more involved along the line, but I think everybody, probably every week, if we want to write it or if we want to talk about it, we can find the who didn't get the ball enough guy of the week. But if it happened in a loss, then I think it's a good question. Could he have contributed to winning more? If it's in a win, it might be like, sorry, man, your turn's coming. But I do think Austin Hooper will get more involved. To what Mary Kay said, he's certainly going to be more involved than he was the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you know what? I also think that we need to just keep this game in a little bit of perspective, just like we should have the Baltimore game. I mean, it's getting pretty obvious that Baltimore, even though we kind of knew this heading in, is a really darn good football team. And we also know that the Bengals are somewhat challenged. They were very challenged on defense. They were the number 32 ranked defense in the NFL last year. And in this particular game, they didn't have their best defensive player in Geno Atkins. They didn't have his replacement in Mike Daniels. They had some issues in this game for a defense that wasn't good to begin with. I think that we don't really know exactly what the Browns are yet. And we're not going to know for about 3 or 4 more weeks. Then I think we're going to have a really, really good idea of what you have on your hands. And they're going to have a better idea too. Because the truth of the matter is right now is Alex Van Pelt and Kevin Stefanski are just seeing their players play together for the very first time. They don't even know they didn't know how Kareem and Nick were going to work together. They didn't know how Austin Hooper was going to be covered by the defense when you've got Odell and Jarvis on the field. Now they're just starting to see how this is going to play out.
Can I also make a quick point of information on this? You know who was second on the Browns in targets on Thursday night? Austin Hooper.
There you go.
Odell had 6, Hooper had 4, Jarvis 3, Harrison Bryant, Kareem Hunt, Kaderil Hodge 2 each, and then Chubb and Janovich 1 each. So they only threw it 21 times.
I know. He only completed 16 passes. So it had a different vibe to it. It felt more explosive offensively than it was. And that's largely, I think, because of the running game, just pounding it out there. But truthfully, they just didn't pass the ball that much.
And Mary Kay, I think you make a good point that, look, I'm not going to complain that we have football games to watch and actual things on the field to judge. But you're right. This team has played the Baltimore Ravens, one of the 2 or 3 best teams in football. And they played the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in football. And I don't know that we're going to see a lot against Washington because they might be one of the, probably not at the level of the Bengals and the Jets and teams like that, but they're not a great football team either, to be honest. So, the Browns did what they were supposed to do against the Bengals. They won. I guess they kind of did what they were supposed to do against the Ravens. They didn't go to Baltimore and win that game with no preseason, no off-season program to speak of. It's just really hard to get a feel for where this team is in the pecking order right now. So some of these questions are a little bit tough to really answer.